Hey, get that feather there like that.
I haven't even had time yet to do a full inspection. Yeah, well, the first thing I knew was just, you're cruising along for like 3 or 4 hours, smooth, just like in an airline, and then all of a sudden, bang! And then the bang doesn't stop. It's a constant explosion that's just continuing. You're in the middle of the explosion, it's all this air rushing through, I mean, the total impact between the bird and me could have been over 400 kilometres an hour, and it must have been to do this. I mean, my God, and through the bar, and there's like right through the cockpit, all the blood and feathers and gunk right through the cockpit, and my face was totally covered in blood. And, and I later, oh my God, the thing is down beside me, but I couldn't pay too much attention for that, but I must say I was a bit like this. And, but I was trying to concern to sort of cope with the blast and the wind and the noise, and also instantly no headsets, and I have these nice Bose sound deadening things, so it's a double contrast to be in the middle of all this noise. And, but the plane, my God, it's awesome, I mean, to fly like this is not easy. As I say, it's like pushing an open bucket through the air instead of a streamlined nose cone, and flying it is very, very hard. Yeah. But,
well done.
I recommend this plane for sure.
Fantastic. What sort of plane is it, Michael?
A Glass Air Sportsman. Yeah,
awesome.
Brilliant. Creek down the bottom, a bit of a flat area, but it would still be a disaster and not a first choice. My first choice was to try to wrestle it and get up, start climbing and get the hell out of there. And so it was engine screaming and air blasting and totally blind. And of course the headsets, like I had nothing, so the noises tripled, And anyway, and I'm wrestling and it's rock and roll trying to get up through there. And the glimpses I was getting, I was just memorising to work out, trying where to fly. And so really after that, and it did occur to me that I didn't seem to be spinning or banking. Yep. And so I knew the autopilot still had some control, but I was fighting the servo because it couldn't keep me up. It wasn't strong enough. So I had to fly it to get out of there. And it did occur to me that if that was the case, maybe there isn't too much wing or tail damage, because then, curtains. But I didn't know that. So once I got out of there, I thought, oh man, I've got a chance. But then I actually started following the cord from the roof here with my hand, blindly, and I found this down on the floor, and I could feel that, and I didn't actually know there was a bit of a cup there, but you wouldn't have been able to hear anything because it was just in the middle of an explosion with the air blast. So I held this mic, and I'm using my press to talk transmission, and I'm giving a mayday call just in case. But what am I going to say? Mayday, mayday, mayday. My position is like, I really can't tell you a lot more. I'm out of, I think I said out of Gold Coast and out of Mudgee, southbound for Moruya, but I really couldn't say much more than that. And even once I stabilised and started settling the engines down, and it was buffeting, so I was really having to control it a lot. But once I stabilised it, I got it down to about 80, which at the top of my rescuing it out of the mountains, I saw a glimpse of it at 50, which is getting close to stall. So I managed to keep it sort of roughly around about 80 once I got some eyesight back. And I could see a little bit on 2 navigation instruments there that I was still heading roughly towards Moruya, but I didn't want to go all that way because it's going over the mountains where the problem is. And so I thought I'll try to divert to Canberra, which is more inland, and avoid the mountains and perhaps find Goulburn on the way. And I knew that Bathurst and Orange would have been roughly on my right, But I thought, like I had no sense of time at this stage. It could have been hours. It was a lifetime. And anyway, so I called a couple of maydays through here, but figuring the chances of anybody hearing me were pretty much zero. And so I started texting, and I'd already texted earlier in the flight, photographing my instruments for my technical person in America. And he advises me about engine stuff, so I'm texting him, telling him about the problem, and trying to fly and wrestle the thing. And then I've told him I'm trying for Canberra so that he would be able to tell them, notify them, because I didn't think I could. And anyway, then I got a glimpse. I was trying to see on this map up here. Now, this is the iPad. It's my third navigation system. Got all the pads up there, maps with more detail. But as you see, it's covered in blood. And I was reluctant to try to. Well, firstly, I'm jostling around like this, and the air's blasting, and it's middle of an explosion. But trying to clear that, I was only going to make it worse. So, but I could get a glimpse of some yellow behind roughly the centre of the screen. I thought, shit, that's an urban area. It'll be a town. It could be Bathurst or Orange, maybe Goulburn. And so I thought, I'll try to get back for that. But I'd already passed it, and I thought, once I let go of the autopilot, I've even got more problem because I can still only kind of half see. And so I'm going to have to do a U-turn. So I wanted to stabilise the thing as best I could, try to stabilise the airspeed, and control it and get ready. And I think at that stage I may have even put on one stage of flap. Maybe it was later than that. But anyway, I disconnected over near the Eagle. And after the bang, I knew nothing about getting hit. I could feel, but as I wrestled, once it sort of settled down, I was aware that there was feathers here and here and here. And at one stage I did look there and saw part of claw, talons, or beak, some parts that were recognisable as a bird. I thought it was a second bird down there. It was so big. There's feathers. Like, I was quite uncomfortable with this side of the cockpit, partly because I had no eye on that side. And of course, I suppose the worst airflow would have been there. But also, as you can see, there's feathers covering the ELT and even the autopilot, which I had to get into later. And blood and feathers here, feathers stuck all the way down here. So, and then they're right around the rest of the cockpit too. Look, right over here too, jammed in that side there, and blood everywhere, blood. And most of the blood was on my face. I mean, geez, it really had to hit me right in the face, like anywhere else, but oh no, right in the face. And it would have been claws first. And I'm sure that's my, Jaws scar to boast about. There's my claw mark. Where did you get that? Oh, it's an eagle claw. I fought the eagle and I won. Man, I gotta be the eagle, man. Fly like an eagle. Ambulance was fantastic. When I got on the ground, as I say, the first thing I did was photograph my dog, and then I saw all the mess. I took a couple of photos, and I climbed out, and then I was absolutely euphoric. It's a drug. I was excited. Whoa, I survived. Looking down the barrel of death. I shouldn't be here, And so I was pretty wound up and pretty on a high. I was covered in blood, but I could feel some pain there, but not a big deal. Anyway, some of the people that had come up to the plane called the ambulance, and I said, listen, and I went to my back door and got out my passenger, my co-pilot, Bobby, my dog, and I'm hugging him, and I said, listen, I don't care what the ambulance says, I'm not going with them, I'm not leaving him. And so when the ambulance came, they understood that was real, and certainly, we had shared that ordeal together, and he definitely is that calming effect that, right through all that, I honestly never did panic. I was working as fast as I could, but I actually never panicked, and it's his calmness that does that. And so when the ambos came, they realised that was the situation. They wanted to take me to hospital. I wasn't going to be parted, so they let me take him in the ambulance. They tracked down the kennels, and they drove me to the kennels first, and we dropped him off. Then I was able to relax and go to the hospital, and thank you, ambos.
Fantastic. Great stuff.
I was in the hospital, I guess I went in on the Thursday after the flight, and I've got out just now, which is, what's today? Sunday. And so through Christmas, but I reckon it was my best Christmas. I got an extra life, And I also got an extra eyeball that I didn't know I had, so they were really good there, fantastic. Bathurst is a really nice hospital and great people. But it is quite phenomenal that it could have done this with that slope. And really, it could hit me anywhere else, but quite in the face. Survivor. Oh man, that one. Pulled a rabbit out of the hat.